The Walther PPK SD. Let's check it out. The Walther PPK was introduced in 1931, and it became legendary. Originally designed in .32 ACP, this was the gun that Hitler took his own life with. There's a number of different historical events that have happened around the .32 caliber. But probably what made it the most famous was being carried by James Bond. The PPK that Sean Connery started carrying was in .32 ACP. But Walther has reintroduced the PPK and PPK-S in .32 ACP. This is the SD model. It has a threaded barrel, so it's great for suppressors. You can get the all stainless steel model, or you can get the traditional black model. And it's great to see Walther reintroducing .32 ACP and actually upping production with the PPK and their new PP model. This is a classic, it's traditional. While it's only 7 rounds in the PPK and 8 rounds in the PPK-S, it's still a very elegant, thin handgun. And it definitely gives you those 007 vibes. And a big thank you to Walther for sending the PPK SD in .32 ACP. If you're used to shooting the .380, the gun was made for .32 ACP, and it makes it really soft to shoot. Guys, great to see Walther bringing back the PPK in .32 ACP. There have been a number of different guns that have been introduced lately. The Beretta Tomcat, that was a .32 ACP. It's already shooting subsonic, so it's really easy to put on a suppressor. And you can get this in the black version. This is obviously the stainless steel. And the SD version, again, has the threaded barrel. HAPA 28 threads. There is a thread adapter on here, and we'll look at that when we break it down. So this can be removed and you can put in a cap, but this, honestly, when I first got it and I saw the black thread protector, I thought it was plastic, and I picked it up. It is steel. Of course, with the handgun, it matches the grips. You know, this is such a classic handgun, and it's full of history. You've got Hitler, he carried the PPK, actually took his own life with one. Of course, James Bond, which, of course, fictional character, but really made the PPK world famous, and probably one of the most famous guns ever. And he did carry it in .32 ACP. But really, with American shooters, the .380 ACP PPK became really the rage. And that's one of the reasons why they had discontinued the .32, because .380 ACP was just the caliber of choice, and it gives you more ballistic advantage, but you'll be surprised the .32 ACP really compares to the .380 ACP with just a little less recoil, and definitely not quite as much of a self-defense round as your PPK in .380 ACP. But this, again, is become legendary here in the U.S. But Walther just reintroduced their PP model. This is with the longer grip. It holds 7+1 of .380, and it has the longer slide. And this was actually designed in 1929. The PPK came around in 1931. So this is from 1931, and yet it's a beautiful masterpiece. One of the things about the PPK is it's very elegant, and I think that's one of the reasons why James Bond carried it. It fit his character. Now let's go ahead and make sure that the gun is unloaded. The magazine release is up high next to the slide, and we have 7 rounds of .32 ACP. Now with the .380 PPK, we have 6 rounds. And we'll check the chamber, make sure that the gun is empty. First off, the slide, very easy to bring back. We'll compare it with the PPK and 380 as well. And there is a pretty marked difference between the two in recoil and just pulling the slide back. We had the hammer back. This is a double single action pistol, and that means the first pull of the trigger, you're going to bring the hammer all the way back. But let's go ahead and check out the decocker. And this is one thing that makes this a very safe handgun. So we take the decocker, drop it, it drops the hammer. Now, have a dead trigger. It's on safe, but then bring it back up and you're ready to fire that double action trigger pull. And guys, it is heavy, but it is quick. There we go. So that first round is going to be a long, heavy trigger pull. Subsequent shots, the hammer will be in the rear position. Now, the problem with that is that long, heavy trigger pull with your first shot, and then following shots are going to be really fast and a fairly light trigger. And so it's one of the things you just need to train for, but with it in double action, it makes it very safe. Now, one thing that they have added, which I really like, is this extended beaver tail. I believe on the PPK-S, they had extended it. With the PP, obviously, it is extended, at least on the new version. But here with the PPK, you'll see that there is a very short little beaver tail or overhang right here. And so while that does help from slide bite and hammer bite, if you have really meaty hands, this can give you a little pinch. But with the new design, you've got a lot more there to protect your hand. It actually fits that web of the hand. It gives you more surface area. But when we were shooting these two side by side, there is a definite recoil difference. I'm telling you guys, the 32 PPK shoots like a dream. It is so easy. And again, super easy to bring the slide back with the 380 PPK. I mean, it is definitely heavier. And of course, you've got to remove the magazine to be able to keep it from slide lock. But definitely a lot more strength it takes to pull that back on 380. But man, that is absolute breeze bringing that back. What do you felt like difference between the two?
It's a little more powerful, a little more recoil, but it's good.
Yeah, they're simple to shoot, but that 32 is really soft.
Yeah, it is. It definitely compares.
Yeah, considerable more recoil. Pleasant to shoot, but with the 32, it is soft, very soft to shoot. But and they're pretty much the same size. Definitely, the PPK was made for 32. It's so easy to shoot. Now, the sights, they're very low to the slide. They're milled into the slide. You're not getting anything but these sights. You can see there's a little orange dot, and then here at the front, a corresponding orange dot. What I love is the anti-glare serrations that are on the top. I mean, they are beautifully machined, and that's just going to keep reflection down, especially on stainless steel. But actually, with a fixed barrel design that the PPK and the PP have, it really lends itself to good accuracy. The barrel is actually fixed to the frame, and it makes it not only accurate, it does give you, though, a little bit more back pressure. With the John Browning design, the barrel actually tilts, and it does help with felt recoil. Here we have our slide serrations. They're very close, and obviously you have the decocker, which actually aids in getting this pulled back. We have our extractor right here. I love the lines of this handgun. It is absolutely beautiful, and Walther does an incredible job with the finish. You have the Walther here, and then of course a lot of markings with Carl Walther, and it does have the caliber. But then here on the other side, we just have Walther, and these are made in Fort Smith, Arkansas. And that has a lot to do with the 1968 Gun Control Act, which was really aimed towards Saturday night specials or small handguns. And so Walther actually was 1 point within being able to be imported. And so they brought manufacturing here to the U.S. Now this magazine has a finger groove, and I really like that. It just aids because you don't really have a lot to hang on to. But this gives you, honestly, a little bit more of a full grip, but also included is a flush base plate magazine. And again, it's also 7 rounds. But as you can see, you're just gripping on the bottom of that magazine with your pinky just barely. And that's if you have medium-sized hands. You have larger hands, it's going to really, you may get 2 fingers on here. But the recoil on this is so mild, it's not really going to affect shootability. This also helps when you're concealed carrying because this is the area that typically prints. But this gun is so small, I think that the finger groove magazine is going to work just perfectly. Now the grips are just some kind of polycarbonate grip. It does have the Walther logo. It has texturing here. And then we have the same on the other side. The back strap is actually a separate piece that just covers the mainspring housing. And so, but it has the texturing on the back. And then we have just a smooth front strap. On the PP, you have that front smooth strap. And then on the back, you have a smooth strap. It's just 2 panels that go here, and this is really from the older design, and I believe the PPKS also does that as well. In fact, the grip on the PP is the same as the PPKS, and that holds 7 rounds of 380, just like the PP, but the barrel is shorter, more like the standard PPK, so it's kind of a hybrid. But nice commander style hammer, and it just nestles right there in your beaver tail. And of course you have your decocker right here. Don't forget though, if you bring that down, that you're going to need to disengage it in case you're in a self-defense situation. Being from 1931, these are all steel handguns, and of course it's stainless steel. It does come in the blued version as well. Stainless steel barrel. The barrel is 3.3 inches in length, and that includes the threaded barrel. No. The barrel on the standard PPK is 3.3 inches. With the thread adapter, it's 3.34 inches. Now the threads, 1/2 by 28, very smooth, very well done. That's one thing about this handgun. The German engineering was at its peak. And so this is, again, an adapter. It can be removed, and we'll look at that when we break it down. Now we use the Banish 45 from Silencer Central. This is a very modular system, and of course we can put the extension on here, but with 32 we're able to go with just this size. This will go all the way up to 45 caliber, all the way down to 22. And one thing I want to explain or just talk a little bit about, with a standard suppressor that has a tilting barrel, you want to use a Nielsen device, and it's something like this with a spring, but with a fixed barrel, which this is fixed, we're going to have a little bit of a different setup, and I think it's just important to note because a lot of times we get suppressors and there's not as many fixed barrel designs. But here with the device, and you can see it's pretty dirty, we have a spacer and a small spring. The large spring is to allow for the tilting of the barrel, and it keeps it from binding. But with a fixed barrel, you use the spacer and it just kind of locks it in. Also with the Banish 45, you can totally disassemble this suppressor, and it has baffles all inside. And so it's very modular, and yet it's very easy to clean and to get into. So that's one of the huge pluses of the Banish 45, and we really appreciate Silencer Central for being one of our sponsors. They actually sponsor our suppressors, and man, they are awesome. So guys, while these started out in 32 ACP, really for American shooters, they've gone pretty much with just 380, but now they're reintroducing that 32, both in the PPK, the PPKS, and the PP. Here we have 9mm, 380 ACP, and 32 ACP. Really the case length is pretty close to the 380 ACP, but this is about 73 grains, this is 95 grains, and we have 115 grain bullets. The weight of the bullet is going to increase your stopping power. Now these are all full metal jacket. There are jacketed hollow points that you can carry as well. But one of the big pluses for either the 380 ACP or the 32 is that in a home defense situation, these are less out to penetrate walls, go through studs, where a 9mm could. So this is going to be a little bit of an advantage just for that reason. Two, you're going to have less recoil with the 32, so it's going to give you faster follow-up shots. But there is a big debate between 32 and 380 ACP. To be honest, it's shot placement, but 380 ACP is definitely a better self-defense round, and then 9mm surpasses that. There are more handguns that have been produced for 32 ACP than any other caliber. And over the past 100 years, this has definitely proven itself to be effective for self-defense. but just not as effective as 380 and 9mm. Now again, this is a double single action, so that first trigger pull is going to be really heavy. In fact, my trigger gauge will not read the trigger pull weight. But as you can see, you've got to get a good solid grip and then it comes back. I would say that it's at least 12 pounds. But on the single action, a little bit of take up right to here, and then a very nice break. Reset, right there. It's not really tactile, but you could hear just a touch of the reset, and then we're back on it. Now let's check the trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge from Brownells. We're not going to check double action because it won't read it, but for single action. 3 pounds, 10.5 ounces. 3 pounds, 11.2 ounces. And the weight on the PPK SD in 32. 22.19 ounces. It's still hefty because it is an all steel frame, but it's so thin and carryable. And really with 22 ounces, it's not bad. I'm gonna give a big thank you to Fiocchi for sponsoring the ammo, all made in the USA. One of the biggest suppliers of ammunition in the country. One thing that I really have loved about Fiocchi over the years is they produce a lot of calibers like 32 ACP, 25 ACP, and different military calibers that you can't always get. And so I've been using Fiocchi for a long time, and we appreciate their sponsorship. Walther PPK, I mean, it's an icon, it's a legend, and in 32 ACP, it is super soft to shoot. Of course, we have the Banish 45 on here, which makes it incredibly quiet, but just a very well-made, beautiful gun. 7 rounds in the magazine of 32 ACP. So soft to shoot, even without the suppressor. And we shot them side by side, just to test it with a 380 and then the 32. Again, it was made for 32 ACP, and it really feels like home. Of course, you're gonna get a little bit more ballistic advantage, obviously, with a 380, but very sweet to shoot. Now, of course, with the suppressor, we don't have suppressor height sights, but you can line up your sights on the back of the suppressor and actually get pretty decent accuracy. So, overall, it's just an icon of a pistol. Man, those 7 rounds though, they go really quick. It's just a beautiful handgun, just great that Walther's brought back the 32 ACP. Now for disassembly, we're going to drop our magazine, check the chamber to make sure the gun is empty. Now there are a couple of things that we have to do. The thread protector we have to remove, but we also have to remove the adapter. And so I'm going to reinsert the magazine and bring the slide back. Now we need to go ahead and remove our thread protector. And that way we can get to the adapter a little bit easier. There are flats on either side of the adapter, and so we can take a small wrench, lock it on, and then just turn it. And this stays on so it doesn't come off when you're taking your suppressor on and off. I will say that when we were at the range and shooting it, that when I pulled the suppressor off, I accidentally pulled the adapter off. But even with that, we were able to still shoot the handgun. And there should be available a cap that goes over this, that you can carry this without the threaded adapter sticking out of the end of the slide. Next, we just want to take our trigger guard and place it just on the edge of the frame, and then bring the slide all the way back, lift up, and then bring it forward. Recoil spring right here, a little tight. Of course, this is the first time I've actually disassembled this. Okay, there we go. I had to get off camera a second just to pull that off. So you can see that the barrel is fixed to the frame. and this again gives it just a really stable barrel. One thing about this is when you're shooting this with suppressors, you need to make sure you have the correct adapter and not the Nielsen device, which is used for the rotating, tilting barrel designs. But really, that's pretty much all you need to do to field strip. And then, of course, it's been shot quite a bit, but the machining on these, and they're just beautiful. I mean, these are well-finished handguns. No tooling marks, very dirty. Again, we were shooting this with a suppressor, which does make it pretty dirty. But overall, not too difficult, but with the threaded barrel and the adapter, it takes a little more to be able to disassemble. Now for reassembly, we're going to put our recoil spring back on. It is tight, and so it was tight coming off, and it's tight coming back on. So we're going to have to just get it and work it over very slowly. But really, and I don't want to put the other end first because it is a lot looser. There we go. So we've got it over it. May take you a little bit of time to get that over it. Now bring your trigger guard and place it again on the side of your frame. You got to be careful because it'll snap back into place. So we're going to bring our barrel through our slide, and when it comes through, just bring it all the way back, drop it down, and there we go. And the trigger guard just went ahead and went into place. Now without a thread adapter, this locks. It locks into place. So we're going to have to take our thread adapter and go ahead and get it started, and it'll go right in. And once we get it into a certain part, we'll take our wrench and we'll just go ahead and tighten it down. Once it gets locked in, your slide will work. And then we can take our thread protector and we can put it right back on. Again, and this is a little bit of a pain sometimes, but having to remove the magazine to drop the slide. And then we put the magazine back in, and then we decock. Really, it's not as difficult as it looks. You just have to know the right steps. Now, keeping your firearms maintained and cleaned is vital, especially on a self-defense handgun. Otis makes some of the best cleaning equipment out there. They make a number of different kits that are dedicated for different rifles, pistols. They also have Shooter's Choice, which makes excellent CLP and bore solvent and different cleaning materials. The ripcord is one of their signatures, and there's a whole system based around it. They are suppliers to the U.S. military. And so here we have our tactical kit. It's a very compact little pouch, and you have everything you need to keep your firearm cleaned in the field. But then also they have larger kits with the steel rods and with rip cords, and they make a number, in fact probably the most I've ever seen. And then of course they have tools as well. So check out Otis Technologies, highly recommended, and we want to thank Otis for being a sponsor of the channel. But I've been a big fan of Otis for a long time. Now, as far as price, MSRP is $1,099 for the SD model with the threaded barrel adapter. The standard PPK in 32 ACP is, and 380 ACP is $969, manufacturer suggested retail. But of course, obviously you go to your dealer and you can typically get it, and market price is less. I'll tell you guys, as far as the PPK, these on the used market were running pretty much about $800. In fact, I bought this one used, and I was seeing them all around for around that price. Now, what are pros and cons? First off, it's just a beautiful, iconic firearm used by the German Army with officers all through World War II and beyond. And of course, ended Hitler's life, which is a big kudo for this handgun. Also, of course, the James Bond series made this just world famous. And people have really loved the PPK for a long time. Now, this is a 1931 design, and there have been some changes, but it's pretty much the same overall handgun. It's all steel, so it's fairly heavy, but, you know, it's really thin, so it makes it really nice to be able to carry for concealed carry. It just has a little weight to it. I think adding the extension here where there would be a beaver tail, this makes this a lot more shootable. The 32 ACP is a pleasure to shoot. But as far as a con, 32 ACP is not the best self-defense round. You know, your 380 ACP typically is really regarded as the lowest of self-defense, but there have been a lot of people that have used 32 over the years, and it can be effective. Shot placement is going to be very important. Ammunition, finding it, that might be a little bit of a con. 32 ACP is not as plentiful as other calibers, but typically the price runs about what you see other ammos run. We have the threaded barrel, and of course we have the adapter. We can change that out if we want it. No threads off the end to make it that real classic look, but just excellent to be able to take a suppressor out and shoot it. It makes it really a pleasure to shoot. So overall, I mean, the PPK, PP, the PPKS, they're just excellent firearms. Guys, whether you love just the history behind the PPK or you love those old James Bond movies, and you just want to carry something on your hip that's super thin, easy to carry, very reliable, and just has a touch of class. The Walther PPK and PPKS in 32 ACP or in 380 make excellent sidearms. And again, a little bit of Bond, James Bond, gives you a little bit more confidence. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. One of the big pros is that it just is rich. It has a rich heritage. It has a rich heritage. Heritage. Yeah. The black thread. But then Walther also just released their, okay, but Walther just released again, okay, okay, let me think about it for a minute. 3 pounds. 3 pins. And you can see that it did disengage the trigger guard. So we're going to have to pull it down. Oh, it just looks ugly as heck. Just stay up there, please. Okay, lift up. And then we can let it go forward. And obviously, oh, we got to remove the,
Thread.
Yes. Live and learn, baby. The heck, now I can't get it back.